But I see too many kids today that have never had a chance to try tools. They might be a teenager and they're still building things out of Legos. Tools were never introduced. Gone are the days where, 10-year-olds are kind of messing around in the shop, cutting up boards and, things like that. But you have to be exposed to things. Now, the other bad thing I'm seeing in the schools is being done to the mathematics kids. Let's say we have a child in primary school that's maybe 8, 9 years old, and this child's very, very good at math. And he turns into a behavior problem because he's forced to do baby math over and over again. These are the kids that need to be moved ahead in math, and they're not doing that. And I've talked to, just in the last couple of months, I've talked to one of them was in the UK, and the other two were in the US, where the kids were labeled oppositional defiant, pathological demand disorder, BS, or something like that. And all it should have been done is to give that kid harder math to do. And harder math lessons, they're free online. Or you get that old algebra book out of the attic, which I don't understand, and that little 9-year-old's going to just love that book and go ahead. And that kid needs to be moved ahead in math. I'm not suggesting putting him in high school, but maybe that 8 or 9-year-old needs a high school math book, an old-fashioned high school math book. And so I'm seeing math kids getting held back too. Now, my mother did everything she could to promote my interest in art. I was just drawing the same horse head over and over again. She said, well, let's draw the stable, let's draw the saddle. That you take that interest and broaden it. So if a child likes cars, then let's read about them. I'm seeing too many visual thinkers like me getting addicted to video games. I can tell you what's been very successful getting off of video games: repairing and fixing cars. There's been 5 or 6 young adults in the US where that's worked. And I asked them, how come you gave up the video games? And they said motors were more interesting than video games. You say art and mechanics go together. Art and mechanics go together, and math and music go together, because math and music are both patterns. But if you don't expose little kids to lots of different things, you're not going to find out what they gravitate towards. And then you want to take the thing they gravitate towards and you want to expand it. Okay, so if a child likes a certain type of classic car, in the US, Corvettes at one time were really big. So you're a Corvette fan, or maybe you like some other electric car, some modern car. Well, then let's learn about how that car works. Let's read about the history of that car. Let's read about how the automobile industry started. You see how I'm taking that interest and I'm broadening it. We're going to learn about how an engine works. How does an electric car work? And how does a battery work? These are all interesting things that you can do to expand that interest in cars.
And when it comes to support strategies, particularly in the classroom, maybe towards older learners, are there any strategies that you have seen have been very good for neurodivergent students? Because I know in your book you had your squeeze machine. Are there any other ones that you have noticed that have worked for others?
Well, let's talk about some things that come up over and over again.
Right.
We're neurodivergent. And this also includes dyslexic, some of the ADHD. And I cannot remember long strings of verbally presented information. So a task that has a sequence, let's say it's an experiment in a chemistry lab, let me write it down in a pilot's checklist format, these steps for the job. I need an external working memory. Or because I just can't remember the sequence. Let's say it's something simple like closing out the cash register at a store. Let me just write down the steps in a pilot's checklist format. That is something that would save a lot of jobs. Because I've had managers get mad, go, oh, I don't show him how to work that machine. Is he stupid? And the other thing is, let's say electrician's apprentice, 2 jobs got lost because the boss went yak, 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 and the apprentice installed the wrong fixtures in the wrong places. You see, if they spent 2 minutes writing that down, that wouldn't have happened. That is writing it down. Because even when I did jobs, I'd write down how many cattle this was going to handle and, things like this. What were the boundaries of the property? I like that all spelled out. I'll do the designing, but I need to spell out all the constraints on that and the requirements for that project up front. Another big problem is rapid multitasking, like a crazy busy McDonald's takeout window. let's just avoid that. You know, even if they have to work in a fast food place, let's find an easier shift. One McDonald's here did a very nice accommodation. When the cash register got super busy, they moved the autistic lady to cleaning tables. Just a very simple thing that enabled her to keep her job, that the manager just did. Another issue can be flickering of lighting, LED lighting that flickers. And one of the ways that you can detect this is just pull out this thing and film the room in slow motion video. Just regular slow motion, you'll find the bad lights. But for certain individuals, not all autistic people, I'm going to say maybe 10 or 20% of them, and then some of the people dyslexic having trouble with reading can see this flicker of the lighting and they get headaches from it. And you guys put the desk over by the window. So what do I do if I'm stuck in a windowless room with these horrible lights? Well, that's when you're going to get a battery operated LED light. You find one that does not flicker. Wear a hat and put that light on your desk. Okay, that's another simple accommodation, like for an office setting, for example. You know, I've been doing these talks for a long time, and over and over and over and over again, these things come up. Those are free things you can do right there, really simple. It would save a lot of jobs.
So I'm hearing quite a lot of proactiveness is from your side, from the neurodivergent individual. Another area which comes up quite often, which students and researchers ask, is whether or not they should disclose. And I know you have quite an interesting perspective on disclosure, or when not to do it.
Well, of course, in the 70s, nobody hardly knew what autism was. So I would just say, let me just write it down. And I didn't have a problem with lighting. And there's still a lot of discrimination out there. If you're doing just great in a job, I wouldn't disclose. I might disclose, just say, I can see these lights flicker, they give me a headache. And maybe just leave it at that. But pilots need a checklist, I need one too. And then I'd remind the boss that for pilots, it's mandatory. Aviation all around the world, they have to use the checklist. It's required. And it's a very, very simple thing.